You are welcome to another exposition on how Nigerian war that lasted between 1967 to 1970, that took the lives of over 3 million lives of Biafrans, including the starvation, was instigated and sponsored by British government of Harold Wilson, the then United Kingdom Prime Minister. It is correct to say that many people do not have clue and do not want to know what actually took place. And that is why Prophet Hosea in Hosea chapter 4 verse 6 stated, "My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge, because you have rejected knowledge." Many blacks, especially the Biafrans and the Nigeria at large, always reject knowledge and understanding. If you are sick and go to hospital, the doctor will like to analyze your case by first asking the patient to provide the health history of the family. This gives the physician the insight into potential genetic, susceptible, and hereditary conditions of the family. This then will establish the foundation for more personalized and targeted medical care. That is what it is. For you to understand what actually happened during the war, you must understand the beginning point of it, between 1966 to 1970. There are many factors that led to the crisis and eventually the Nigerian Civil War. We are taking it one after the other. In our last edition, we exposed the British Prime Minister called Harold Wilson, his qualifications, his introduction into the political world of Britain, his rise to become the Prime Minister of United Kingdom. This we touched in our last exposition. Today we will expose what actually led or engineered the Prime Minister into advising Gowon to go to war against the breakaway Biafran government, which they themselves instigated. People have read various books on Nigerian Civil War written by various authors, like The Nigerian Civil War, Personal Experience of a Student Nurse, Ngozi Obunna, My Command, written by Olusegun Obasanjo, Awo on the Civil War, The Nigerian Civil War, written by John Descent Jore, The Nigerian Civil War, A Love Story, written by Michael Enwerem, Sunset in Biafra by Eleji Amade, Oil, Politics and Violence, Nigerians Military Coup Culture, 1966 to 1976, written by Max Solu, and a host of others. Many of them have not been able to get into the depth and reasons why oil became the politics of the war that lasted between 1967 to 1970 and its effect on British economy and West at large, and why also they refused to recognize Biafra at that very particular point in time. Even the latest book of Ibrahim Bodamasi Babangida could not expose the main points of the war. Everybody believed that it was the coup of Chukwuemeka Nzogu was the real reason behind every crisis. But what instigated the coup? What brought about the involvement of British government in the political crisis of Nigeria? We will get into all this. First, we will atomize the factors that led to this very coup. First, the Israeli-Arab War of June 1967, which ended up with what was then termed the 1967 war, and the oil weapon against United Kingdom, United States, and Germany for their inability to restrict Israel of what they called Israeli aggression. the 10 days war in the Middle East. This oil weapon was a restriction and embargo placed by Arab oil-producing nations of Middle East against the West, especially the United Kingdom, the United States, and Germany. These affected their economy, especially Britain. These countries were Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Iraq, Libya, and Algeria. They all banned oil shipments to the United States, to the United Kingdom, and Germany. The effect of this economic meltdown was heavy on British economy. A maximum of 1.5 million barrels per day of oil was removed from the market from June to August 1967. Not only that, there was a closure of Suez Canal by Egyptian government in 1967, the only route source to export raw materials from Middle East to Western world. The closure of Suez Canal during the war made this shift even more challenging, especially for European consumers. All these affected the economy of Harold Wilson as the Prime Minister of Britain. In November 1967, the Prime Minister, Harold Wilson, had no option than to devalue the British pounds against the dollar. In a radio and television broadcast this evening, according to him, I quote, the Prime Minister said, devaluation will enable Britain to break out from the straitjacket of boom and bust economies. The Prime Minister, Harold Wilson, has defended his decision to devalue the pound, saying it will tackle root cause of Britain's economic problems. This time the problem has arisen because the oil was no longer flowing and the businesses were being melted down as a result of the embargo placed on oil. The government announced last night it was lowering the exchange rate. So the pound is now worth $2.40 per pound, down from 2.80, a cut of just 14%. The decision came after weeks of increasingly feverish speculations and a day in which the Bank of England spent $200 million trying to shore up the pound from its gold and the dollar reserves, unquote. The Prime Minister was in crisis and the opposition against him was rising. To the opposition, I quote, this was a blow for British economy, already floundering in the crisis that led to devaluation later in the year, unquote. This quote was coming from the opposition party. Unfortunately, in Nigeria, there were political crises. The Prime Minister of Nigeria then, Alhaji Tafawa Balewa, who was in charge of the Nigerian government, was also in Britain in 1965, where he attended the Commonwealth Prime Minister's Conference. The deliberation was on Southern Rhodesia, the government of white minority rule led by Ian Smith, who had been previously supported by Britain. When Ian Smith and his government decided to declare independence without British influence, Ian Smith won a general election in 1965, which excluded the black votes. Indeed, in 1965, Tafawa Balewa, the Nigerian Prime Minister, supported Rhodesia on a one-man, one-vote, which was deliberated in 1965 at Commonwealth Prime Minister's Conference in UK and again in Lagos on January 15, 1966. The Nigerian Prime Minister, Alhaji Tafawa Balewa, was vehement and in a communique stated that the principle of one man, one vote was regarded as the very basis of democracy, and this should be applied to Rhodesia. But unfortunately, this was not applied to Nigerian election in 1965. These are the hanging problems, which nobody related to what took place in Western region in 1965. Also, the Prime Minister of Great Britain, Harold Wilson, was not happy that the British Commonwealth Conference was taken out of Britain to another nation, which he said had never happened, but it was forced to take place in Nigeria by the Nigerian Prime Minister, who decided and insisted to host the conference in 1966 January. We will stop at this very particular point. We ask our viewers to listen and review and research on this very program, and the details hereabout provided for them to know and have in-depth knowledge of what took place. At the same time, we will want you to give us your reactions, your comments, and what you think about all this, and what conclusion you will draw from this very particular area as we move to the next level towards the coup, the war, and what transpired after the war. Thank you very much for viewing. Thank you for being with us. For our subscribers, we thank you so much. For those who have not subscribed, we ask you to subscribe to this channel. We are not making news. We are bringing events that led to some serious circumstances that are bedeviling the nation, the root cause, where they are coming from. If you understand them, you will be able to find solution towards these issues and also guide against them happening once again. But unfortunately, the politicians have known the weaknesses of the electorate and the judiciary. They are all summed up. Do you have money to give to us? With this, we come to the end of this very program. Thank you for watching. God bless you until we come to you again with the reality of the war, the real remote control of the war. Thank you very much, and God bless you all. Bye.